We're currently going through a bit of an internet horror golden age, and while nowadays YouTube is filled with complex ARGs, masterful horror series, and 10-hour analysis videos, it wasn't always like this. Early YouTube horror was a lot different to the kind of horror that we see online today, mostly because at that time it was so new, so groundbreaking, and so unknown. It was so new in fact that a lot of people didn't even classify it as horror. Instead, the ever-growing subgenre of weird and creepy YouTube videos and series came to be known as the weird side of YouTube, because generally you didn't go searching for this kind of content on YouTube, it found you, and then you'd go down an endless rabbit hole of bizarre and creepy videos, from Little Baby's ice cream to There Is Nothing to the classic creepy car commercial and more. So today I wanted to revisit the weird side of YouTube to look into their bizarre backstories and how they've influenced the kind of horror that we see on the site today. Before we get into things, I just want to give a huge thank you to Honkai Star Rail for sponsoring this video. Honkai Star Rail is an all-new multi-platform space fantasy RPG from Hoyoverse, the makers of Genshin Impact. This free-to-play strategy role-playing game features an accessible strategic turn-based combat system and huge maps with maze exploration and puzzle-solving gameplay. Get ready to board the Astral Express and experience worlds of strange and fantastical sights where each journey is filled with excitement and adventure, and where you'll meet new companions as well as faces familiar to fans of the series. With absolutely beautiful graphics, a wide variety of fun and unique characters to develop your team with, and stunning cutscenes and animations, Honkai Star Rail weaves a beautiful and enthralling story. Both visually, which, I mean, come on, look at these absolutely gorgeous graphics, and through its in-depth story and sci-fi RPG gameplay. Witness stunning special effects and combat. From orbital cannons to ice walls and a fully fledged army, the character's stunning combat abilities guarantee every battle to be an audio-visual feast. Plus, with 4 languages available and a star-studded cast of voice actors, the story is really brought to life. The game can be logged into on both mobile and PC. Since game data is shared between platforms, you can play anytime and anywhere. Check out Honkai Star Rail today using the link in the description and use the gift code on screen to get 50 free Stellar Jade when you log in. Honkai Star Rail is truly an incredible game, so definitely use that link in the description and check it out. A huge thank you to Honkai Star Rail for sponsoring this video, please do go check them out, and now let's get back into the video. YouTube was launched in 2005, and back then it was a very different place, namely because the internet itself was a very different place. Even though the internet had technically existed since the 80s, but more realistically for most people since the 90s, it still felt pretty new by the time that Y2K rolled around and didn't kill everybody. It was a period of discovery and establishment for the internet. Some of the biggest websites in the world were launched during the 2000s, some of the most iconic subcultures and groups were formed, and a lot of things that are still popular staples on the internet today were popularized during the 2000s, including internet horror as a genre. Early internet horror was far less prolific than it is today. Back in the 2000s and even the 2010s to an extent, internet horror was far less common and therefore much scarier. You gotta remember that back then internet users didn't approach things with the same skepticism that we do today, often just taking ridiculous, outlandish things at face value. Actually, we still do that today. So have we learned anything? No. My point is, if your friend linked you a creepy website or a spooky video popped up on your recommended, you weren't going to approach it under the assumption that it was an interactive ARG mystery or an unfiction horror story created for YouTube essayists to analyze. Because back then, those didn't really exist, at least not in the way that we know them today. The internet horror genre, especially on YouTube, was far more likely to be something that you accidentally kinda just stumbled on, and that made it feel far more terrifying, far more unknown, and sometimes even far more real. Thus, the weird side of YouTube was coined as a term to describe those times we would fall a bit too far down a YouTube recommended rabbit hole to find wonderfully spooky, weird, and off-putting videos. Don't get me wrong, a large percentage of these videos were trash. 90% of the time it would be a terrible Windows Movie Maker list of the top 10 scariest things found on beaches always using this photo, or top 5 horrifying ghost encounters caught on camera with giant blaring red circles and arrows, you know, just in case you didn't see the huge photoshopped ghost that took up half of the frame. But among the piles of clickbaity trash, there were iconic, legendary videos that broke new ground in the internet horror space and paved the way for a lot of what we see today. Let's revisit these nostalgic pieces of internet history now, and obviously a trigger warning for spooky imagery in case that is something that disturbs you. Whenever I think of classic YouTube horror nostalgia, the very first thing I think of is Scary Car Commercial, and you probably do too. It was one of the most iconic early horror videos on YouTube, though calling it horror might be a little bit of a stretch. The thing about the Scary Car Commercial is you very rarely ever just stumbled onto it in the wild. Most of the time it was shown to you by friends, and that's how I personally encountered it as well. My friends were like, hey, watch this video and keep a really close eye on the car, like really focus in and just follow the car. And so, like the gullible fool that I was, I watched the car wind down this peaceful country road accompanied by relaxing music until boom, jump scare. A generic zombie suddenly pops up accompanied by an extremely loud screaming noise, and for a lot of kids, including myself, this was their first ever internet jump scare. The video currently sits at 20 million views thanks in large part to how popular it became as a prank. Early YouTube was filled to the brim with shaky Nokia videos of people showing this video to their friends, family, teachers, and co-workers to capture their hashtag hilarious response as they screamed or punched their monitor or jumped out of their seat. The screamer genre had gone to become extremely popular in the wake of Scary Car Commercial, with tons of other innocent looking videos intercut with sudden loud noises and jump scares popping up on YouTube, pun intended. Obviously it was super awesome and funny, and everyone really enjoyed having to walk on eggshells whenever they logged onto the site, because like 46% of their recommended videos would secretly be annoyingly loud, startling jump scares. It was awesome. We loved it. But where did this infamous screamer spawn from exactly? Well, it was uploaded by a user called Kittlesticks in October of 2006, but Kittlesticks did not in fact make the video. It was originally a German TV advertisement, yes, this thing actually aired on TV for multiple years, for a coffee brand called K-Fee. In the YouTube version, the video ends with a heartbeat sound and text that reads, "Now go change your shorts and get back to work," but this was edited in by Kittlesticks. The original commercial version reads, "You've never been so wide awake," followed by the logo for K-Fee coffee, so essentially the ad was trying to mimic the sudden rush of adrenaline that you get from a lovely caffeinated K-Fee beverage. There's a whole expansive genre of cursed/haunted/disturbing commercials and PSAs that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but this was one of the earliest examples of both a cursed commercial and a viral screamer video, which weirdly makes it a pretty important piece of historical media for the site that gives us a lot of context as to how these subgenres were forming in the early days. We can acknowledge that and the fact that the video was annoying as shit, you know. Two things can coexist at the same time. Also, fun fact, the location of the Scary Car Commercial road, which had long been a mystery, was finally discovered in January of 2023 by none other than Geo Rainbolt, because, you know, if anyone was gonna find it, it was definitely going to be him. Turns out the road is in California and looks drastically different now, unfortunately having lost all of its lush greenery. Turns out the true jump scare was climate change. Another early and extremely formative piece of horror media was that of username 666. The video, uploaded by user Nana825763 in February of 2008, shows someone, presumably Nana themselves, adding 666 to the end of the site's URL and hitting search. At first nothing happens, but as they continue to refresh the page, it begins to devolve, becoming more pixelated and distorted, with stark black and red colors beginning to bleed onto the page. After a number of refreshes, a channel called 666 finally pops up. The page is disturbing, covered in fleshy red textures with thumbnails depicting twisted masses and shadowy figures. Videos begin playing depicting pulsating organisms, and the page becomes more and more glitchy and broken as the video goes on, with Nana eventually unable to even shut off the computer. This video, which currently sits at over 17 million views, was a phenomenon and genuinely convinced large swaths of people that it was real footage. User 666 became something of a modern day virtual Bloody Mary, with kids at sleepovers around the globe typing 666 into the URL and refreshing until they found the fated channel. I'm sure I don't need to tell you lovely logical people at home that obviously user 666 was not real, and it was actually just a really impressive piece of art, especially for its time. The original video was made for a Japanese video sharing site called Nico Nico Duga, or NND, and was originally called A Cursed Video in Nico Nico. It was made as part of /05, an online flash movie festival, and is noticeably different from the viral YouTube video. video. It's much longer, clocking in at 7 minutes instead of 4, contains a wider variety of visuals, and obviously is based around a cursed Nico Nico page instead of a YouTube channel. Nana has come to be widely respected and acknowledged in the online horror space, not only for User 666, but for the wide variety of horror videos, images, and animations that he's posted to 2chan and his website during the early 2000s. He's currently working on a super cool haunted PS1 style game with an undecided title, and while information about the game is extremely vague, from the images that we've been shown so far it looks extremely good. Basically, instead of being a real urban legend, username 666 ended up being something far cooler. One piece of art in a rich tapestry of 2000s internet horror art by this one incredibly talented and influential artist. Without his work, internet horror as we know it likely wouldn't be the same. In April of 2006, not long after YouTube itself had launched, a user called David Earl uploaded a video titled Dining Room, or There Is Nothing. The video, which currently sits at over 9 million views, depicts a pale greyish woman with long red hair and a white dress sitting at a dining room table. She says something unintelligible to the camera before falling headfirst into her bowl of soup as the camera zooms out and shows the interior of the dining room with flames dancing outside the window. The video then rewinds to the start and the woman once again speaks.
There is nothing.
When the video was first uploaded, it wasn't uncommon to see re-uploads with titles like Real Cursed Video or Don't Watch Video from Hell, often with some sort of cliched urban legend attached to it, like the woman in the video would drag you to hell if you watched it at midnight, or if you watched it you'd be cursed to go to hell when you die. Which I mean, I guess it could be true, it's not like I've been able to verify that, so. Anyway, the usual rumors about how haunted and cursed the video was aside, again this was just another example of a really impressive piece of horror art. The grainy low quality of the film adds tremendously to the forbidden old found footage vibe, and the set, acting, and effects all work together incredibly well to make something that's unnervingly beautiful and aesthetically pleasing despite the unsettling content. On his blog, artist David B. Earl reflects on There Is Nothing, quote, "Of all the films I have made, perhaps the most obscure one has had the largest impact. Dining Room or There Is Nothing instantly went viral in the pre-YouTube days with more than 5 million downloads. Since then it has been viewed in excess of 10 million times and usually appears in any top 10 lists of creepy or scary videos or films. It has been an enormously entertaining experience reading the many conspiracy theories written about it, and to watch it gain popularity steadily over time, something of a rarity in YouTube films, I think. When looped, there is no actual beginning or end, and no real sense of where the beginning and end actually are. This piece was inspired by a personal paradoxical desire for empirical proof that there is nothing on the other side of life. I wanted to blur the distinction between the two states and to state the paradox by showing someone that is coming back from life or death and denies its existence, thereby fulfilling the paradox." Speaking of videos that were taken out of context to spread outlandish urban legends, let's talk about I Feel Fantastic. Now usually I like to think of myself as a bit of a skeptic when it comes to videos like this, but I can't even lie, I completely bought into all the ridiculous and outlandish rumors that surrounded this one when I was younger. Embarrassingly. I Feel Fantastic is a short 2.5 minute video of an android standing in a house singing the words I feel fantastic in a robotic voice. She's made to look like a human woman with short blonde hair and a sweater, and as she sings, the video is intercut with shots of her sitting down in a black outfit and long meandering shots of a random field. While the original upload by YouTube user Creepyblog in early 2009 has since been taken down due to a mysterious copyright strike, it allegedly reached over 24 million views before it was removed. Clearly it had an incredibly widespread impact on early YouTube, and I'm sure at this point you can imagine how crazy the hearsay and urban legends got. One of the most popular and convoluted theories, and the one that I personally brought into, was that the original uploader was a serial killer and these videos were cryptic hints towards his murders. The android was some sort of effigy to one of his victims dressed up in their clothes, and the field featured in the video was the location where he buried the bodies. Another common and similarly outlandish theory was that this malevolent android had gone rogue and killed its creator, with very little evidence to support the theory other than the fact that OP had gone radio silent since the video's upload. I kinda misled you though, because the original poster was not actually Creepyblog in 2009, but a man called Tom Bergeron, no relation to the guy who hosts America's Funniest Home Videos, videos, all the way back in 2004. The android in the video, as he explained in both the description and his own GeoCities site, was called Tara and was created as early as 2001. Bergeron initially created her as a prototype with basic functions such as moving, talking, and following preset scripts, though she could also be remote controlled live. Bergeron claimed that she could be used for a variety of purposes such as research, display for attractions like theme parks and museums, security, or even just home use. I Feel Fantastic is actually just a short snippet from a much longer Android singing showcase / demo DVD that Bergeron created in 2004 and made available for purchase. Though the GeoCities page suggests that Bergeron was planning to sell Tara, as far as I can tell there was never any update to the page to indicate she'd been sold, so who knows where she is now. So in reality, I Feel Fantastic is just an out of context snippet from an Android singing demo for prospective buyers, and the original uploader is just a guy who really likes robotics and wanted to share his creation with the world. To be fair, yeah, the video is pretty creepy with the low quality of the grainy footage, the weird out of place shots, the somewhat unnerving appearance of the android, and of course the singing, which combined with the discordant backing track sounds pretty eerie. But at the end of the day, it's just someone's passion project, and honestly no wonder Tom Bergeron left the internet after thousands of people began flocking to his videos to accuse him of being a murderer. It's actually really sad in my opinion, and a good reminder that while internet horror and sleuthing and theorizing can be really fun, it's really important to fact check first before dragging innocent parties into something like this, especially when the accusations are so serious. It's notable that in recent years a lot of people have returned to the video with a much more positive outlook, complimenting the creator on his craft and commenting that they actually like Tara's singing. Wherever the android is now, I hope she's doing well and still feels fantastic. Now for an actual mystery that isn't just hearsay and exaggerated rumors, though it does have its fair share of those: Blank Room Soup. Originally uploaded with the title Freaky Soup Guy in November of 2005, the video depicts a man in a blank, empty room hunched over a bowl of soup, eating it while crying. His face is covered by a black censor bar to hide his identity. Soon two figures enter the room with large cartoonish costumes and bobble-headed masks. They begin to pat him on the back as if to comfort him before the video ends. As one commenter put it, "I hate being bothered by pop vinyls while I'm eating soup too." So what the hell was up with this video? The original upload got over 1 million views and subsequent re-uploads got even more, leading people to wonder who, what, why, when, where, and if the guy in the video was even okay. Was this fake, some sort of performance art, a prank? Or maybe, just maybe, this was a video from the depths of the dark web. The leading theory that formed around this video was that the man eating soup had been kidnapped and his wife killed and turned into soup, the very soup that he was eating in the video. That's why he was so hunched over and looked so tearful and distressed, meanwhile the masked figures leered over him, feigning comfort to mock him. This theory was backed up when 3 further videos were uploaded of these masked figures, including one where they appear to be in the process of kidnapping a bound victim. But where the story diverges from the previous ones that we've talked about is that it wasn't some easily explainable piece of horror art or an ARG or anything. We have to actually dig a little bit deeper to find out what is going on here. The bobble-headed mascot seen in the video were created by famous animator, artist, and all-around creative guy Raymond S. Percy. He's directed several episodes of The Simpsons and was a sequence director on The Simpsons movie. He's storyboarded on Wreck-It Ralph and Frozen and provided speaking roles for several Disney movie characters. With credits on so many big properties and an extensive work history with Disney, it's fair to say that he's pretty successful, but one of his lesser-known projects was a character and performance called Ray Ray. Rainbot, a creator on YouTube who makes horror and true crime videos, reached out to Raymond to figure out what exactly was going on and why his costumes had featured in such a strange and disturbing video. Raymond claimed that while performing the Ray Ray act at a club called the Key Club on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood, almost all of the Ray Ray costumes and props had been stolen from the dingy, unlocked RV that they had been stored in behind the club. He also confirmed that he had initially received the video attached to an email and he had been the one to originally upload it to YouTube to show his friends and colleagues just how weird it was. Rainbot ended the video on an inconclusive note, stating that since Raymond Percy himself had no idea where the video came from and the mystery was over a decade old, it was likely that it would never be solved. A few years after this video, another one by the channel Super Horror Bro came out. This video was a lot more sensationalized, pushing the angle that this was some deep weird mystery and sharing the account of a random internet horror theorist called Enigma, you know, very clever, who claimed that he had gotten in contact with the person who stole the costumes and made the video, and that they claimed that they wanted wanted to make some big statement about capitalism corrupting art or something. This thief also claimed that he was the one who talked with Rainbot, not Raymond Percy, since he had hacked into all of his accounts. This whole story threw a huge spanner in the works, and personally I actually find it really annoying. Like, this Enigma character never provided any solid proof that the person that he talked to wasn't just fake or a troll, and his claims were kind of just taken at face value, which is crazy. Basically, screw off Enigma, your story's legitimacy is doubtful, and you should not have been used as a primary source. Aside from these two videos though, information on Blank Room Soup has been extremely scarce, and at this point most people have just shelved it as a dark web mystery or a snippet from a Red Room video. But there's one other theory that's emerged which I think is far more likely: Stolen Babies. Which is the name of a band, by the way, don't worry. So Stolen Babies is an experimental rock band with a very distinctive steampunk Victorian clown kind of aesthetic, and they've performed and taken pictures with the Ray Ray costumes on numerous occasions, including one where they're being tied up and fake abducted by them. This is because the lead singer, Dominique Lenore Percy, is the sister of Raymond Percy, and they've collaborated many times, including incorporating the Ray Rays into performances and photo shoots. This isn't the only connection though. In one of the Blank Room Soup videos, we can see one of the Ray Rays kidnapping a bound figure, and this bound figure very heavily resembles Gil Sharon, another member of Stolen Babies. Comparing it to this specific photo shoot of the band, the red jacket, black hat, dark reddish glasses, and pale white face makeup are literally identical, to the point that it makes me think the video and these photos could have even been taken on the same day. In fact, I have a strong suspicion that they literally were. These three images are all part of the same photo shoot by Pixie Vision Productions, a photography service in the LA area, and they contain 3 props: a large oversized cartoon prop gun, rope, and 2 of the Ray Ray costumes. Not only does the video feature a figure heavily resembling Gil Sharon from this photo shoot, but it also features rope and 2 Ray Ray costumes. Coincidence? Pretty unlikely in my opinion. As for the original iconic Blank Room Soup video though, it's basically impossible to tell who the crying soup guy is. If it was a member of the band, they would have had to take off their makeup and elaborate outfit, which Gil Sharon did not do, making it slightly less likely but still possible. It also could have simply been a member of their crew or a friend. But even if Stolen Babies were behind the video, what was the motivation? Why would they make something like this? And the answer is, well, Stolen Babies are kinda weird. They're a pretty eccentric band, dressing up in extreme makeup and outfits and putting on very unique and sometimes odd performances. In my opinion, making a weird fake snuff film with cartoon characters as the abductors is absolutely within their wheelhouse, particularly because they have so many other examples of photo shoots with the Ray Rays where they imply violence or some other dark theme. If this is true, Raymond himself may have played a far more active role in this mystery than he's let on in the past. Not only is he related to a member of Stolen Babies, but he himself is no stranger to elaborate projects and performance art both online and in real life, as evidenced by the Ray Ray character itself as well as some of his other work. Some of Raymond's original uploads of the video on sites like Metacafe and Dailymotion have descriptions like, "A clip of people who look like us doing something we would never do, promise. What's happening in this clip and why do these people look like us?" This reads to me more like lighthearted joking or trolling or like an in-joke between friends rather than something genuinely serious. So does Blank Room Soup have a case closed 100% satisfactory, tied in a bow conclusion? Definitely not. There are still tons of questions and we don't really have a definitive answer yet. But in my personal opinion, I think it was basically a joke/prank conducted by Raymond and his sister with the help of the Stolen Babies crew. Maybe it started as an in-joke, and then when the video blew up and people began taking it super seriously, they got too embarrassed to admit that it was just a prank, or maybe they liked the mythos that surrounded the video and didn't want to ruin everyone's fun. But at the end of the day, that's just my own personal theory, and it's still 100% possible that Raymond and Stolen Babies had nothing to do with the video and it's an authentic internet mystery. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think though. Definitely let me know what your theories are in the comments and where you think this video came from. For some reason, one of the biggest genres of content on 2010's YouTube was compilations of quote-unquote cursed commercials. I mentioned that sort of bottom-of-the-barrel top 10 list format earlier, and these were very much that. Most of the time they were like 10 or 15 commercials edited back-to-back in Windows Movie Maker with the title of the ad coming up in Comic Sans if you were lucky, and by gum we ate it up. The definition of cursed tended to be pretty loose in these videos since most of them were just vaguely creepy advertisements actually actually most often PSAs. Public service announcements campaigning against things like drugs, drink driving, violence, etc. tend to be pretty grave and serious in tone, and a lot of the time they'll use shock or even scare tactics. Naturally, they're pretty creepy, you know, one minute you're an innocent kid watching Cat Dog in the morning, and the next minute some really serious shit is popping up on your screen, often using really unsettling or even grotesque imagery to scare you out of, like, smoking marijuana or something. But regardless of how creepy they are and how off guard they catch you while you're trying to watch Golden Girls reruns or something, they're not actually cursed. That is, unless you're talking about the cursed Kleenex commercial. Released in 1986 and reposted to YouTube in May of 2006, the cursed Kleenex commercial was one of the earliest examples of a viral cursed commercial and very likely introduced many internet denizens to the concept for the first time. The video depicts a woman dressed all in white interacting with a baby dressed up as a Japanese ogre. The woman takes a Kleenex from the box, letting it fly away as the Kleenex logo pops up and the ad ends. Throughout the entire video, this haunting melody plays, a woman's voice singing out in a somber tone with no backing instrumentals or music, just her own melancholy voice. It's not exactly the scariest commercial ever, you know, it's not exactly the kind of thing that I would imagine would have Kleenex boxes flying off the shelves, but it's not the most horrific thing I've ever seen. But no, not only was this commercial super scary and terrifying, it was also haunted, #real, #not clickbait. People claim that the song was actually a German curse, which translated to die, die, everyone is cursed and will be killed. People also claim that anyone who watched the full commercial would die, and a video posted in 2013 by YouTuber Shrouded Hand depicting the video becoming distorted at midnight fueled these rumors even further. Even after the commercial was pulled due to complaints, the legend persisted, claiming that the woman and the baby had died or that the entire cast and crew had befallen some horrible fate. Like many urban legends on the internet though, it sounds super scary and serious on the surface level, but once you dig a little bit deeper, it's a pretty easily debunked myth. The reason that I couldn't play you that creepy Kleenex baby music is because it's copyrighted by a company called Cherry Red Records who actually own the song. It's called It's a Fine Day and was written by the poet Edward Barton and performed by his girlfriend Jane Lancaster. It was meant to be performed as a sort of spoken word poem song thing, thus the lack of instrumentals or backing tracks and the mysterious haunting performance. I honestly have no idea where the German curse rumor came from, since the song is clearly sung in English with English lyrics, so the whole "it translates to everyone is cursed" thing doesn't really track, since you can't translate English into more English. While it is true, according to Atlas Obscura, that the ad was pulled in Japan due to complaints about its unsettling nature, it was never cursed or haunted, and neither the actress nor the baby perished in any commercial-related accidents. Another advertisement which was shared around early YouTube was "This is a special time," also known as the Little Baby's ice cream ad.
I eat Little Baby's ice cream. It keeps me young. It keeps me light on my feet. I spring from activity to activity. I love my job. I love my life.
This video was usually the #1 entry in those aforementioned top creepiest commercials and PSAs videos, and tons of YouTubers took the footage and edited it to be even more creepy, adding shadows and distortion and creepy music and ooh. Naturally, with the internet being the internet, rumors swirled about the video being haunted or cursed or possessing the power to kill whoever watched it. And while I understand why these rumors spawned, I mean, yeah, the ad is pretty creepy, it was actually just incredibly effective viral marketing. See, Little Baby's Ice Cream was a small ice cream company based in Philadelphia whose whole shtick was wacky ice cream flavors like pizza, everything bagel, chipotle chocolate, cucumber dill, balsamic banana. You get the idea, it was hipster ice cream for hipsters. But being a small company, they didn't really have a super big budget for advertising, only around $3,500. In an interview with LBB Online, Doug Garth Williams, the man who directed the commercial, said, quote, "The reason the owners approached me in the first place was that they knew if they gave me freedom on this project, I would give them a concept that would stand out and have a good possibility of going viral on a tight budget. During casting, I was paying careful attention to the eyes. Based on how I planned to shoot the film, I knew that the eyes would really stand out. The actor, Asa, had these really piercing, distinctive eyes. The basic idea of the scene was that the character was literally giving up an important part of themselves in pursuit of the incredible sensation that devouring their own ice cream body provides. It's pretty twisted, but they are actually lobotomizing themselves as the ad proceeds, as they eat, their original sense of self decreases and the compulsive drive to consume their own delicious ice cream body grows. Gotta respect the dude for putting this much thought into the psyche of his ice cream monster. The company never expected for the video to take off as much as it did, but obviously it did, currently sitting at over 19 million views. It just goes to show that while creepy advertisements were and honestly still are a pretty popular genre of internet horror, often the stories behind them turn out to be far more interesting than the videos themselves. And it also goes to show that if someone on the internet tells you that a video is cursed, it's definitely not cursed. Many of the most popular horror series and ARGs on YouTube today are animated, hand-drawn, or even puppeted, and this trend absolutely has roots in early YouTube horror spaces. One of the most famous examples is Salad Fingers. Released on YouTube in May of 2007, the animated short runs just under 2 minutes and tells the tale of Salad Fingers, a long-fingered green thing who really likes spoons. Yes, that's the plot of the short. Salad Fingers likes rusty spoons in a really weird way. He goes into a house, asks a random kid for spoons, and that's about it. It was originally released on Newgrounds in 2004 and really reflects that 2000s Newgrounds lit epic random style of humor with short nonsensical plot and weird random dialogue, but despite this it had an incredibly unique style. Even before the first episode of Salad Fingers released, the creator David Firth had a substantial library of art and videos, all with this incredibly unique, grimy and gross, yet incredibly striking and dark art style. It was very visceral, and this was on full display in Salad Fingers, and though the animation was pretty rudimentary, the art style was incredibly unique, and the bizarre premise mixed with the creepy, off-putting vibe really caught the attention of Newgrounds users, and subsequently YouTube users when the short was uploaded there several years later. Unlike the previous spooky videos that we've covered, no one tried to take Salad Fingers and weave a tall tale about how it was cursed or haunted, but it still became an absolutely iconic staple on the internet in the early days. It's the kind of video that you'd pull up at like a sleepover or at school to be like, hey guys, check out this video I've heard about, it's super weird, and then you'll watch it and you're kind of like confused and brushing it off and kind of nervously laughing like, what even was that? But then you'll kind of sit with this really uncomfortable, unsettled feeling that you can't quite put your finger on. Can't quite put your salad finger on. The first episode is currently sitting at over 43 million views, and it's spawned 12 more episodes so far, with more in the works according to David Firth. While the first video was just a random short with little to no plot, as subsequent episodes came out, a complex plot began to form with subtle hints and symbolism hinting towards a more in-depth and complicated story. Covering the entire chronology and meaning behind Salad Fingers would be a whole video or 5 of its own, so I won't go in depth today, especially considering how many other people have covered it at this point. It was pretty infamously covered by Film Theory in 2016, which renewed attention towards the short and inspired tons of people to start making in-depth analysis on it. Salad Fingers had started as more of a joke, a creepy, weird, gross out video to show friends at school, but over time it developed into so much more. Viewers went from brushing it off as a simple goofy animation to taking it seriously as a piece of art, weaving the tale together, connecting the dots, and spending hours collaborating with others to put the story together, which is something that I really appreciate about the horror climate today. The genre is taken a lot more seriously. Like, people complain about the oversaturation of the 10-hour Five Nights at Freddy's lore analysis style horror videos, but I would much rather take that over top 10 scariest ghost sightings, top 10 haunted and cursed commercials that will kill you if you watch them, or just in general lazy reposts of horror videos claiming that they're cursed or haunted. Not only was that content just super lazy in general, but I feel like it kind of undermined the artist. You know, horror videos don't have to be haunted or cursed or real to make them scary. They're genuine pieces of art that people put a lot of work into, and you can just think they're cool because they're cool. They don't need to have some sensationalized clickbaity story surrounding them. You can just appreciate them as art. Anyway, rant over. I just feel like it's a really good example of how the internet has really embraced horror in recent years, especially the theory crafting side of it, which in my opinion is really cool. David Firth continued making art and animations all throughout the 2000s and 2010s and is still active today. He's worked on numerous other popular YouTube series and shorts, including 2009's Sock and 2017's Cream, as well as numerous TV shows and projects. I'm glad that he's gotten so much recognition and has had such a successful career, considering how influential his work was and still continues to be online. I can't think of a better video to end this video on than the original Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. After all, the first video was published in 2011 as a simple standalone horror short, and now the entire series of 6 YouTube episodes have well over 100 million views collectively, as well as an actual publicized Channel 4 television series. It's a fantastic example of the old internet and its horror climate growing and evolving over time and tangibly influencing the horror that we see on the site today. I'm not going to get into the entire series or the lore because, you know, I wouldn't want to steal MatPat's thunder or anything, so we're just going to cover the original upload, the one that launched the series into viral popularity in the first place. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared was uploaded in July of 2011 by Becky Sloan and Joe Pelling of This Is It Collective, a film and animation group. The theme of the day here is old internet horror influencing what we see today, and a huge genre that you see almost everywhere today is innocent kids media, but spooky. Now, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared was absolutely not the first to do this. Taking something you'd typically assume to be innocent and sweet and kid-friendly and making it dark is one of the most classic horror tropes out there, and there are countless examples, most notably in the creepypasta genre. I mean, hell, when I was like 7 there were kids singing "I hate you, you hate me, let's get together and kill Barney" on the playground like constantly. What I'm saying is, cute kids thing but dark is definitely not new. But DHMIS took this well-worn trope and portrayed it in such a masterful, unique, and visually appealing way that it really helped to repopularize the trope in mainstream media. The short opens on 3 kids show mascot-looking characters, a yellow guy, a red noodly guy, and a bird all sitting at a table looking bored. Suddenly, a pad of paper begins singing a catchy song about creativity, getting the 3 to start having fun and thinking creatively. Towards the end of the video, as the song goes on, things get spooky as we see shots of a real heart, a bloody pie, the word death in cut-out letters, and the 3 shaking crazily as the music becomes discordant and the peppy educational song goes off the rails. The short ends with the pad of paper asking them all to agree to never be creative again. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is short and simple, but the gorgeous art direction, amazing set, epic practical effects, lovingly crafted props and puppets, super catchy song, and the combination of hilarity and horror made it stick out for a lot of people, myself included. I remember my first experience with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared was when I was a lot younger and my sibling showed it to me, and I'm gonna be honest, I honestly don't think that any other piece of media has traumatized me like that one did. I don't even know what it was about it, but that whole day I was so paranoid that I was gonna have nightmares about them that as night began to draw closer, I started like shaking and having hot flashes. I was terrified. Obviously nowadays I can appreciate the sheer artistry of the entire series. It's incredibly impressive, as well as the inherent humor of it, which I think really flew over my head as a kid. But back then I was not having a good time, and I'm sure that I'm not the only kid who was kind of scarred from watching it. This is another example of a short that absolutely deserved the hype that it got, and I'm so pleased that not only did it become a huge phenomenon on YouTube, but Becky Sloan and Joe Pelling now have a Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared television series airing on Channel 4, which you should absolutely watch. It's genuinely good and really funny, and I hope it gets like a bajillion more seasons because I want there to be more creative and unique shows like this out there. Though many might brush off early YouTube horror as rudimentary or cheap, I honestly couldn't disagree more. It had its fair share of clickbait trash, of course, just as we do today, but as we've seen in this video, a lot of the earliest horror videos on the site were beautiful, masterful, interesting. From experimental short films to lovingly crafted animations to bizarre commercials to shock and hoax videos. All of these pieces of media helped to weave the tapestry of art that was early horror YouTube, and it's a cloth that horror creators continue to cut from today. Look at any popular horror series or ARG and I guarantee that you'll see remnants of these formative videos reflected in them. It's incredibly interesting to me to see how things change and evolve over time, especially in expansive genre with such a rich history like internet horror. It's also just kind of neat looking back at these videos that I haven't seen for years and figuring out their backstories and seeing how they hold up and if they're as scary as I remember. And honestly, a lot of them are, but for very different reasons than I thought they were back then. You know, I don't think any of them are haunted or cursed now. I think they're just genuinely impressive pieces of horror art that honestly were well ahead of their time. They're all honestly incredible, and at the time they were very convincing pieces of horror art that still continue to influence the site today, and they very much deserve their icon status. Even though a lot of people aren't going to remember them the fondest since, you know, they kind of scarred them for life. But I want to know what you guys think. Definitely let me know in the comments if there are any that I missed out. I feel like there are so many iconic YouTube videos that were popular back in the early days that have really impacted how horror works on the site today. Honestly, there are so many that I couldn't include them all in this video. I just tried to kind of pick and choose some of my favorites and some of the ones that I think were the most influential. But yeah, definitely let me know what your favorites are. What ones scarred you as a child? What ones do you think are really cool? What ones do you think haven't held up at all? As always, I'm really interested to hear the conversation. I love reading the comments and the kind of conversations that you guys have. So yeah, please do share your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry about the changing backgrounds. I know I've had different backgrounds in a couple of my latest videos, and I still might maybe change some things in the back here, but I think that's probably what I'm going to stick with. Also, I'm sorry that the lighting is kind of whack. I'm literally just using the window over there, so it might be kind of terrible looking, but hopefully I'll be able to fix up a lighting system in the future. But anyway, thank you for bearing with me through that. I know it can be kind of like annoying, so hopefully it wasn't too distracting or anything. Let me know if you have any like feedback on it or things that you think could help with the setup or anything. Yeah. Anyway, I've rambled for too long. Thank you so much for watching. I've very much enjoyed covering this topic. I find it really interesting. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it too, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye! A huge thank you to my Garfield overlords over on Patreon. Fitzy, Doug, Ren Pendragon, Astrian Vortex, Blue Mayfeld, Caramel Coffee Bean, Charlie B, Dana Homegardener, David Martinez, Dozo Blind, Grip Gunderson, Helm Hamburger Hand, Hazy, Jesse Chisholm, Katrina Likes 5e Stuff, Lee XX, Michelle Olsen, Oliver Brains, Sheriff Whiskey, Simon, Strawberries, The Fabulous Librarian, Xavier Araujo, A Riddle Wrapped in Enigma Hidden by a Question Mark, Electro Kitten, Joe Bradshaw, Matt LRJ, and SHSL Sunson. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. It means the world. If you want to join these guys over on Patreon, the link will be in the description. And yeah, thank you guys for being awesome. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!